In this video I'm going to show you 5 tips and tricks to get more out of your usage of the KLIFS website. So let's start with tip number 1, the search page. The search page has a lot of different options as depicted here on the left. But did you also know that these different options can actually be combined? So for example, we can search for a structure which has a ligand that contains, for example, a piperazine moiety. So we perform a substructure search for this specific moiety. But then on top of it, we're going to add kinase-ligand interactions. So we're going to search for those structures in which the gatekeeper has a hydrogen bond with the ligand. And then finally, we're also going to add information about the binding pocket sequence. So we're going to specify that the gatekeeper residue itself must be a threonine. So the gatekeeper is a threonine that has a hydrogen bond with the ligand, and the ligand has to have this piperazine moiety. So let's just perform this search. So this search gives us 54 different PDB structures. And if we hover over the ligand, we can clearly see that the piperazine substructure is present indeed in these structures. Another way to view the results is using this Show Kinome button. The kinome this button shows that most of the results are in the tyrosine kinase group, a few in the TKLs, CMGCs and other. For tip number 2, we're going to the drugs page. The drugs page provides an overview of all drugs and clinical candidates that have been in clinical trials and that have a known structure. So here we're searching for 2021 to find all the drugs that have been approved in 2021. So for example, belumosudil, also known as Rezurock, has been approved, but it doesn't yet have a structure available. So then you can use this Find Structures with Analogs option to search for other kinase-ligand structures in which the ligand shows a similarity with belumosudil. But the hidden thing here is that if you hover over the hit results, you actually get not only the ligand in question, but also the drug. So you can compare the structures of belumosudil to the matched structure. And we can clearly see that the matched structure is a close match to a substructure of belumosudil. In addition, we find that the similarity here, this column has been added, and this shows the Morga fingerprint similarity ranging from 0 completely dissimilar to 1 completely identical. So let's go into the first hit. So for tip number 3, we're going to this download button. This download button gives you a few options. So you can either download the PDB or MOL2 of the kinase ligand complex. But we recently also added the PyMol session itself. And when you download this PyMol session, you get a view as depicted here. So the 2D and the 3D views as depicted here are then present in the PyMol session. So if we take this PyMol session for example, you can see that the ligand and the coloring are according to the KLIFS usage in the same way as we use on the KLIFS website. For tip number 4, we're going to the orthosteric ligand. So since our last update, we also have these schematic depictions, such as here. This schematic diagram shows all the 85 residues that we define as being in the cleft and often occur in interactions with the ligands. But a hidden option here might be this drop-down button, where you can download the image, but you can also change the image. So for example, you can change the numbering in this image from the residue number to the amino acids. And the current coloring shows the interactions with the different residues. So for example, the hydrogen bond interaction here with the histidine and the aromatic and hydrophobic contact with the tyrosine. But you might want to focus on those, so you can also hide the non-interacting residues and get a focus on that area. Or you can change the coloring to just show the color of the segment instead of the color of the interaction. So for the last and final tip, we're gonna exploit the kinase-ligand interactions. So these kinase-ligand interactions form a so-called pattern. So the way that the ligand interacts with the pocket and the residue surrounding it. You might, for example, be interested in this structure, but also other structures in which the ligand interacts in a similar way. But how do you find them? Well, actually, these interactions and these interaction patterns can be used using a so-called interaction pattern search. So what it does is it is going to compare all the interactions that the ligand has in this structure to all the other kinase-ligand complexes that are available in KLIFS. And then it applies a cutoff between 0 and 1, with 0 again being completely dissimilar and 1 being completely identical. By default, this is set to 0.75, which approximately means that 75% of the interaction profile is identical. So let's perform an IFP search. So this IFP search gives us 12 results for 5 PDB structures. And if we hover over it, we clearly see that there's a different chemistry going on here. So this could, for example, be an interesting hit for inspiration or further ligand design or merging. So the IFP similarity is depicted here. And this shows that the IFP similarity is quite high. So it's nearly identical to the reference structure that we used. And one bonus tip is that if you're not happy with these results, you can further refine these results actually by clicking on this button, and then you can utilize any of these search options to refine the list of the structures that you've gotten using the IFP search. So that's it for now. Thank you for watching, and if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to info@klifs.net.